Okay, we are going to call the meeting to order. If you will join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have no reportable actions out of closed session. C3 items considered in closed session for action in open session. I need a motion on resolution number 43.
Move to readmit the student.
I'll second.
Moved by Director Carl, second by Director Anderson. Roll call vote, please.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Pugh? Not here. President Close?
Aye. Motion carries. Statements of abstention. Adjustments to the agenda. Board member requests for information. Seeing none. Approval of minutes of the special board meeting held on July 25th, 2018.
I'll move C7.
I'll second that.
Moved by Director Christoph, second by Director Fong. Roll call vote, please.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Fong? Director Carl?
Abstain.
Director Pugh? Director Anderson? President Close?
Aye. Okay. Motion carries, bringing us to C8, approval of minutes of the regular board meeting held on July 25th, 2018.
I'll move approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting held on July 25th, 2018.
Second.
That's a good motion, by the way. Moved by Director Fong, second by Director Christoph. Roll call vote, please.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Carl? Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Motion carries. So this brings us to public comment on non-agenda items. This is an opportunity for the public to address the board on anything not on the agenda tonight. Since I have no blue cards and I've been talking for a few minutes, I'm going to assume that there are no public comments on non-agenda items and move on to reports. CSEA report. Is President Afonso here? This summer meeting pace is fantastic, right? Santa Rosa Teachers Association, President Lyon.
Good evening, President Close, Superintendent Kitamura, and board members. I'm William Lyon. I'm the president of Santa Rosa Teachers Association. First, I want to thank the district for providing a day to onboard our new hires. That day's tomorrow. And I want to thank them for providing SRTA to participate. It's a great thing that we're putting resources behind ensuring success of our newly hired teachers and staff. So thank you for that. I also want to thank you for the thoughtful agenda on the August 13 PD day. I'm looking forward to the breakfast burritos. I'm also looking forward to staffing our SRTA vendor table and mingling with my friends and colleagues from all over the district. I think that's really important. I'm also glad that the agenda allows teachers to do their mandatory trainings, so thank you for that. Additionally, SRTA and SRCS have agreed, in accordance with AB 119, that SRTA will have an hour with the new members of our bargaining unit on August 13th. I will tell our new teachers, counselors, psychologists, and other members of our bargaining unit that we love you already. We are glad that you are here. SRTA is dedicated to working with our district to provide the support, training, and teamwork needed to make Santa Rosa a district where educators want to begin and end their careers. From the custodian to the superintendent, we are all on the same team. And our jersey is our dedication to providing the excellent public education that all of our students deserve. We truly are stronger together. Speaking of stronger together, I need to make a comment about the proposed parcel tax. SRTA is currently neutral. We have not had an opportunity to have the rigorous discussion with our members and the community that this important decision requires. SRTA agrees with the overall concept. We understand that our state has not ponied up enough money to adequately fund our schools, and that our community will need to step in to provide the education our students deserve. A parcel tax can be a good way for us to do that. However, we have some concerns about the process of the proposal, and the proposal itself is written. The timing is a problem because it does not allow for the adequate time to build consensus and to build a strong measure as recommended by the feasibility study timeline. It conflicts with other tax increases already on the ballot, which are more organized than our campaign will be. It's regressive, so poor members of the community will pay the same amount or more than our richest citizens. And we're concerned that attracting and retaining the best educators can only happen if we fix our total compensation deficiencies, including healthcare, and it's unclear if the parcel tax can address that. If the board chooses to go forward tonight, SRTA will hold a community forum to discuss the merits of the proposal, and after a rigorous debate, our rep council will decide to support, remain neutral, or oppose the parcel tax. That rep council vote will happen on October 2nd. Because, one, we want a parcel tax that teachers support from the beginning. Two, we believe that any parcel tax or school board has to have the support of teachers in order to pass with a 2/3 majority. And three, SRTA is a democratic organization which must hear from our members before we can endorse such an important idea. SRTA recommends that you aim for the May election or later instead of the November election. This would allow time to build consensus in the community and build a strong measure that the teachers can support as recommended by the feasibility study. My understanding is that whether we put it on November ballot or the May ballot, the money would come into the district at the same time. Let's slow down and get this right. Let's craft a parcel tax that will have the maximum chance of passing and that addresses all the concerns so that we can use the money to attract and retain the best educators for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a labor management collective report?
No.
Superintendent report.
Okay, I'm just going to make this short. I wanted to follow up, if you remember, Chef Buns did a presentation talking about the online meal applications, and we are really happy to report that to date, 1,405 online applications have been completed for meals. I mean, that's huge because to date, same time last year, we only had 600. So this is a great trend, and I'm just extremely happy about it. The other thing I want to report on and thank once again the community for the I&L bond measures is we're coming to a close on our infrastructure technology project. Most of the district has been completed. Right now they're cabling in the district office. And also, as you remember, Lewis came on a little bit later, so that project does still need to happen. But Rick gave me these, Assistant Superintendent Edson gave me these totals, and I thought, you need to hear this, and the public needs to hear this. For our infrastructure, in order to bring up-to-date and quick access to the internet to connect our kids, more than 18,000 total cables, 557 miles of Cat 6A cable, 23 miles of fiber optic cable, 247 cabinets that house what they call an MDF or IDF, ask them what that means, which affected 903 classrooms, huge. There were 60,000 hours of labor put into this project. I can't tell you how thankful we are to the community for passing the bond measures so that our students can have the technology that they need in order to integrate the kinds of learning that we want them to learn. So just wanted to put that out there. The other thing that I'm so wonderfully proud of is our teachers. Our teachers this summer, there were 334 of them who spent time this summer in training. We had training in math, curriculum design, equity, CTE, secondary curriculum design, math, EL, Odyssey Ware, Special Ed Pro Act, and nonverbal communication training, and Best Plus. So my hat is off to the teachers who came and did those trainings this summer so they could be prepared for the new year, for the new school year. And then finally, as President Lyon mentioned, we have for the first time, a new teacher orientation tomorrow. It's been a long time coming, and I'm so pleased that we're able to provide this for our new teachers so that they don't have to worry about logistics and those kinds of things when they start school next week, but and they get to know who we are and who does what, especially in the district office. So I'm really excited about that. And then also, as he mentioned, the August 13th, welcome back. And so starting my 6th year here, there have been many times people have said to me, staff has said to me, I remember the time when we went to the LBC and everybody came together. That was the greatest, Diane. Don't you think we could do something like that? And then Bob Norton, our facilities locksmith, caught me at an LMC meeting and said, Diane, let's just get everybody together and let's do it at a football field and we break bread and we build relationship. So that's what we're doing on Monday. We will be at the Maria Carrillo new track and field, welcoming everybody in to the new year. And as President Lyon mentioned, we've allotted an hour for CSEA and SRTA to be able to speak to their members, their new members or members. And then staff is off to their sites to do their training, their mandatory training. So we're glad to be able to work with our SRTA and CSCA on this day, and we look forward and hope that you can join us. We start breakfast, those delicious burritos by Chef Buns will be starting at 7:30, and then we will have booze up until 9. President Close will be welcoming staff, as well as President Lyon, President Alfonso, myself, and Senator McGuire.
Thank you, Superintendent. I am going to skip my report tonight, and we'll move to board member reports. Director Anderson?
Wow, well, I feel like I have to catch up on the summer, so I'll just kind of do bullet points. Had a wonderful time at the French-American Charter School Bastille Day celebration, which was in conjunction with the Alliance Française. And so, you know, I'm a longtime member of the Alliance Française, and so it was really great to have all of the French-speaking and Francophile community come together, and I think it was a great event. And I know the parents were delighted that Lori Flanagan was there, and they were able to meet her in a nice, relaxed environment, so that was great. You know, I had so much to say about the CSBA Institute regarding STEM and school safety, and maybe at some point we can take some time to actually hash through some of that, because it's really important information. And then I was really honored and pleased that Superintendent Kitamura and Chef Buns provided a wonderful lunch for our students from Jeju, from our sister city, who came sort of in exchange. It's not a direct exchange, but an in-kind experience, sort of, there were 11 students who came, and they're actually the top students from all of their high schools throughout our sister city, and that included trade schools, so that was really neat. And they had a wonderful lunch, and they felt very special, so thank you for that.
Thank you. Director Pugh?
I'll pass tonight.
Director Carl?
Same.
Director Fong? Director Christoph? Summertime. CSBA, NSBA report? Director Pugh, Director Christoph, CSBA, NSBA?
I'll pass tonight.
All right. Brings us to the consent agenda.
Move approval of items E1 through 11.
Second.
By Director Carl, second by Director Pugh. Roll call vote, please.
Director Carl? Director Pugh? Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Motion carries, and in record time, it brings us to the F agenda. F1, discussion investing together in students, families, and community.
Just going to bring some partners to the table. Good evening, President Close, Superintendent Kitamura, members of the board. Tonight we have a joint presentation where we will talk about investing together in student, families, and community. I will have our partners introduce themselves.
I'm Angie Dillon Shore. I'm the Executive Director at First Five Sonoma County. And in a previous incarnation, I was a Program Director at Community Action Partnership, which Dr. Cooper is representing tonight. But I was involved with the Esperanza at that time, so I'm kind of talking from both those lifetimes.
And I'm Susan Cooper, the Executive Director of Community Action Partnership of Sonoma County.
Steve Mazera, Assistant Superintendent, Student Family Services.
So this evening in our presentation, we're going to highlight some key points. As we know, when we provide strong foundational opportunities for our students and families, we have better K-12 outcomes in our own systems. It's important, and you'll see tonight through our presentation, that by leveraging our partnerships, we can truly amplify the impact we have on our community. We do have many successes to celebrate, like the Esperanza, where we really made a difference in the Southwest community. And as we move forward, we need to look at what is the intentional vision for our future, and how can we maybe replicate and emulate some of this work in other parts of Santa Rosa.
So when we talk about pre-K and school readiness, a lot of times we think about preschool, and preschool's very important. However, school readiness really begins at birth. Recent research, actually just in the last 5 to 10 years on brain development, has shown us that 90% of a child's brain, the brain architecture, that is the framework for learning, is formed by the time that they're 5 years old, and 80% by the time that they're 3. So very rapid brain development and a window of opportunity that doesn't come again. In the K-12 world, the benchmark, one of the benchmarks for looking at an achievement gap is 3rd grade and whether children are reading at that 3rd grade level. Some of the research on brain development has also shown that you can actually predict whether or not a child will be reading at grade level in 3rd grade by the number of words and complex sentences they hear between birth and age 3. So not only are very young children soaking up language and knowledge and cognitive skills during that period, but also building foundations for trust and empathy and all the soft skills they need to also be successful in the classroom and in life. So at the macro level, we see this through line from those early experiences to what kind of workforce and economy, local economy, and what kind of community that those individuals at birth are going to one day help to create. And to support this critical time, those early years in a child's development, parents need to have access to early education for their children, but also to support them to be the best parent they can be, to be their child's first teacher, and also supports that they might need to support their own goals and aspirations. There is a lot of evidence as well about the economic impact of early learning, especially when you add in supports to parents. Most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with Dr. James Heckman, the Nobel Prize-winning economist, University of Chicago, who has done a lot of research on the economic impact of early investments. His most recent research has shown that if you add in supports to parents from birth to 5 and quality early education programs, you get a return of $13 to every $1 invested in those programs. And that is very robust, solid, long-term research. And that return, so that comes from savings to education systems, around savings from special ed, lower juvenile crime and adult crime rates, that produces savings to the community, lower social services expenditures, and increased family self-sufficiency, greater tax revenue generated by their higher work rates and higher incomes and mobility, economic mobility. So I'm sure that you agree that investing in our students as a community from the very beginning is a very solid investment in a safer, healthier community, a thriving economy, and a prepared workforce where upward mobility is available for everyone.
Key to this work is community partnerships and what we do together. Collectively is a strong importance of how we work in this community, and we have a shared experience in Via Esperanza that really demonstrates the importance of our collective work. It is through the collective common agenda of what we all believe in. We believe in being ready for school counts, for kindergarten, pre-K. We believe in eliminating and reducing disparities of income and opportunity. And so when we have partners that share that common agenda, it's easy for us to move forward with them. We use that common agenda and equity at the core to leverage all the work that we do together. So there's strength in the numbers and the ability for us to leverage all families in all parts of the county, and that's the strength of that. In that process, we are continuously learning. It's important for us to understand that we want to be able to take risks with each other, fail forward, and learn from those opportunities, and the next time we partner, we have some improvements around that. And then the ultimate in that cycle is our accountability. You know, we are in this community together. We want to have our partnerships together. It's challenging to make sure that we all understand and work with each other, and that we are trying to hold each other accountable to those roles.
So when you look above and you can see our partnerships here on the screen, it really is a shared success. It's really about the continuum of learning here in Santa Rosa. Community Action Partnership is truly one of our critical partners when we look at early Head Start and also the success of Avance and Pasitos at not only Via Esperanza, but at several of our elementary schools. We also have partnered obviously with the JC. Via Esperanza offers ESL classes, and we also have other classes at some of our other sites. And as you can see, Four Seeds does subsidize preschools that we do have at several of our elementary sites as well. But we also can't forget about First Five. They're the ones who contribute the $1.4 million, which was really the seed money to start the Via Esperanza program. And when the vision came together by leadership 6 years ago, who came to the table and sort of had this amazing idea about really looking at whole child, full services, wraparound services. It might have been a crazy idea at the time, but through the support of the board and also the funding and the partnerships around programs, we really have had some great success with Via Esperanza.
Via Esperanza really is that shining example of what we can do when community partners come together and funders come together, and we're on the same page about how to address the achievement gap, and that our common values are really around eliminating disparities, achieving greater economic equity, educational equity, and when we're in a position to leverage our resources. Dr. Cooper is going to offer some details about the wonderful things that have happened at Via Esperanza over the last 5 years, but I wanted to take a minute to refresh our memories about how the partnership evolved. So this graphic was developed back in 2013 before a parent or child was even served at Via Esperanza on the Cook campus. And I like it because it really reflects, everything is in place, on almost everything, except maybe one box, is in place at Via Esperanza now. And that to me reflects the intentionality with which we approached this partnership. We're very intentional about our common agenda, which Steve talked about, you know, to lift families up and to increase equity by providing quality early education programs and helping teachers through the Avance program to be their child's first teacher. And we were intentional about using evidence-informed and evidence-based approaches in order to be confident that we were going to get great outcomes for children and families. And very intentional about leveraging all of our capacities and competencies and our resources and bringing them all together to create this opportunity for families. So just all that to remind us of what amazing things can happen when partners get on the same page.
So I would like to thank President Close and the esteemed board of directors of the school board, and also First Five and Angie Dillon Shore for making it possible for us to hold Via Esperanza. I applaud your dedication to equity and support of our agency, CAP Sonoma, so that we have been able to help so many families. During the last 5 years, Via Esperanza has provided the resources to families to help break the cycle of poverty. Nearly 1,000 unduplicated children and a little over 1,600 unduplicated parents have participated in these programs, accessed services, or were referred for supported resources. Via Esperanza was launched in the fall of 2013 and has offered programs year-round that prepare young children to succeed in school, help adults access the resources and programs they need to be able to support their children's success in school, and also to look at their own educational goals. And this is kind of this two-generation strategy, which kind of intentionally addresses the parents' needs and the child needs. And this is the direction that we see Via Esperanza going to in the future, this two-generational approach. So over the past 5 years, if you happen to be on the Via Esperanza campus, you might have seen parents dropping off their kids at early Head Start or Head Start classrooms. You would have seen parents and their children attending one of our kindergarten readiness programs, Avance or Pasitos. You might have seen parents attending a non-credit GED or ESL class, English conversation, and sometimes there's Zumba or yoga classes for the parents to attend. In the evening, you might see adults attending citizenship classes, parental support classes such as Abriendo Puertas or Triple P, and also group counseling sessions. Other programs that have been held at Via Esperanza include Grupo Luna, which supports parents with children with autistic problems, our wildly popular summer cooking club, and our reading club, basic computer literacy classes, or financial literacy workshops that teach the Your Money, Your Goals curriculum from the Consumer Protection Bureau. So over 20 partner agencies or groups over the past 5 years have provided services or resources, and just to name a few, Humanidad Therapy and Educational Services, Sonoma County Regional Parks, the Redwood Empire Food Bank, and the LGBTQ Connection. So Via Esperanza has truly been a community hub for families, building community, establishing the school as a community center, and engaging parents in their children's and their own education. It has been a joy to work with your staff on this program, and we would love to be able to provide similar services at other schools. And again, thank you very much for your support.
So that sort of brings us to next steps. So how can we not only involve our community partnerships, but also in parents, and really replicating sort of what we learned, and also maybe looking at design thinking to think about sort of outside of the box and other parts of Santa Rosa that may have that need. You know, here we are in the southwest part, but there are definitely other parts of Sonoma County that can definitely use these services. We also know that it's time to really start looking at our outcomes and how we're going to evaluate them, right? We know that some of these students now are in our K-12 system. They're maybe in first, second, third grade. And so trying to look at some sharing data agreements so that we can really look at if they've had the experiences in Avance and Pasitos, for example, how are they doing when they get into TK in kindergarten? And then we do need to think about our dedicated funding stream. Once again, we're very grateful for the seed money, but obviously we need to think about the longevity of how to support these types of programs. And truly, what is our collective vision for the future? When this Via Esperanza was started, it really was this collective vision. And when we talk about the highlights and the successes, you can see that we're able to really make an impact collectively for the betterment of our students here in Sonoma County. So with that, we leave you with the question: how might we intentionally leverage community partnerships to achieve positive outcomes for all students? And with that, I turn it over to the board.
Thank you. First, I want to apologize that we don't have a translator here. We always have a translator here, and I'm not sure why we don't. So my apologies, and I think there are a couple people here who can translate for speakers. I have only one blue card, but I thought there were more people than that wanted to speak. So if you do want to speak, now's the time to bring down a... Lori's hiding them from me. Okay, so two. And the first one, I have to apologize that I do not know how to pronounce your first name, so I hope that you're going to say it for me, but it is, your last name is Espinosa. Ms. Espinosa, please help me with your first name. Yes. Hold on, we don't have the mic on.
It's good? Yeah. Thank you so much. I tried to speak a little English, but it's very for me speaking Spanish. Muchas gracias por permitirnos estar aquí con ustedes y hablarles un poco acerca del Centro de Vía Esperanza.
Thank you very much. My name is Xochitl Espinosa. I'm here to thank you for the time to hear about my testimony.
Yo soy una de las muchas madres que ha asistido al Centro de Vía Esperanza en busca de un apoyo.
I'm one of the many mothers who have come to Vía Esperanza to look for the support.
Soy inmigrante a este país que me ha recibido con las puertas abiertas.
I'm an immigrant mother who came to this country, and this country has received me with an open arms.
Cuando llegué a este país, para mí fue todo nuevo. Es como si aprendiera a caminar de nuevo.
When I came to this country, everything was new to me. It was like I was learning how to walk.
Al tener mis hijos en la escuela, es un sistema muy diferente que he tenido que ir aprendiendo, y a través de Vía Esperanza y con las clases que he tenido ahí, afortunadamente he tenido éxito.
For me to learn about the school system was very hard at the beginning, and Vía Esperanza has helped me to learn how to navigate the school system.
Soy integrante del grupo de ILAC y DILAC de Santa Rosa City Schools.
I'm a member of the DILAC and ELAC council at my school.
Anteriormente ya he estado aquí con ustedes.
And before, she has been here.
El Centro de Vía Esperanza para mí fue exactamente el nombre que tiene este centro. Fue una esperanza porque cuando asistí ahí, pude asistir a grupos de apoyo para madres, para mujeres, clases de inglés. Mis hijos pudieron asistir a programas de pasitos.
So to me, be part and participate at Vía Esperanza programs, it means what the name of the research center. It's Way to Hope. And so for her to assist to the different programs and classes has helped her to support her kids.
Este centro ofrece diferentes actividades que apoyan no solamente a la comunidad hispana, sino a todas las personas de la comunidad.
So this center not only helps the parents of the Cook students' parents, the center helps a lot of the community parents and members.
Con el apoyo del equipo de trabajo de Vía Esperanza he podido asistir a diferentes talleres y también he podido ayudar a otros padres a integrarse mejor a lo que es el sistema educativo y a no tener miedo a estar en las escuelas y preguntarles a sus maestros y apoyar a sus hijos con preguntas y con formas de apoyo para que los niños sean exitosos en la escuela.
So be part of the ESL classes, women's support group, and all the different classes and activities available at Vía Esperanza has helped her to also help other parents to be more involved in their children's education.
he podido estar apoyando en el programa de Abriendo Puertas, también con un taller sobre lectura y ayudando a otros padres para que tengan más acercamiento a las escuelas y haciéndolos ver que no importa que no sepan el idioma, de paso a poquito vamos a ir aprendiendo el idioma, pero no por eso no podemos apoyar a nuestros hijos, al contrario, nosotros podemos apoyar a nuestros hijos para que sean buenos ciudadanos y buenas personas de la comunidad.
Okay. I'll try my best. So she said that she has helped being involved at Via Esperanza, and especially in a program called Abriendo Puertas, Opening Doors, which this program helped her to be and know more to how to navigate the school system, but she also now helps other parents and tell them the importance of being involved and participate in their children's education and to help the children to become better citizens.
Le quiero dar las gracias a todos por escucharnos.
Thank you everybody for listening to us.
Y si no existiera este centro o se terminara este centro, muchos padres de familia no tendrían la oportunidad de entender el sistema educativo. Gracias.
If this center didn't exist or it doesn't exist anymore, a lot of parents will not have the opportunity and the ability to be more involved in their children's education. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for translating. Angelica Ramon.
Good afternoon. Okay. Good afternoon, Board of Directors. My name is Angelica Ramon. I'm here because I want to thank you for supporting Via Esperanza. Via Esperanza has helped me with education, support, and motivating me to continue with my academic goals, to be a better mother, to raise my child. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So if there are no more blue cards, then I'll bring it back to the board for questions, comments. Director Pugh?
Well, the program is immensely successful. I would like to see it continue as it should, but I was surprised that normally during presentation there's an ask. What do you need? And I didn't see much of an ask. And I feel bad because I have something I'd like to see. But so I'll try to get over that. In your opening remarks, it became very obvious, and we all know, that the sooner we can provide assistance to the newborn, the better off everyone is. What can we do we have pre-K, what can we do for pre-pre-K? Because I think your facility has the type of programs that would benefit new mothers, new fathers, and a lot of people struggle with their first children. And it would be wonderful to provide some kind of service to help them transition along and get the answers to the questions they have.
Absolutely, and in terms of, at Via Esperanza, I mean, their Avance includes infants and, children up to 2.5 years old, and supporting parents to really learn about early childhood development, how that they can really encourage and maximize those early years, really in infancy, to talk to their children, to read to their children, to sing, to help them understand that early period of development is really critical. So it is that parent education piece that is so valuable and that we've found really has changed moms and dads that do come to Via Esperanza and participate. There are a lot of other services and investments that First Five has made in the community, like home visiting and other services that do support moms and dads with their very, very young children. But Via Esperanza is very well positioned to support parents with babies and toddlers.
Also, Early Head Start,
Yes,
which is there too, which is infants to 18 months.
Do you do any home visits?
We fund or partially fund a program called Nurse Family Partnership, which is run out of our public health services and Department of Health Services. And those are home visits by public health nurses to high-risk families, isolated moms with newborns. It's a 2-year program, and they help moms really engage and empower them and get them through a period that can be very, very tough. They're very isolated. So yes, we have that home visiting program, and then we also have a program called Healthy Families America, run by Early Learning Institute, and that's a county-wide program, and really for any parents are eligible for that program. But it's a really small percentage of families get that home visiting service, and the research shows that it can make a huge difference. So if we could have universal home visiting, I'm all for that. It's expensive though.
Me too. That might be a good ask for the board.
For the board of supervisors, for you guys.
And Director Pugh, we are making, using the leverage that we described, we are talking about expansion in small increments. The one being, we're going to integrate special ed at our North Bay Children's Center with more special education students. And so they have a place and they get more services, as you saw the importance of that. And then we brought a presentation of our beginning collaboration about the Lewis Center and our ideas around expanding Head Start and making that a one-stop. Many of the things that we've found success at Via Esperanza are things that we can replicate, and that's kind of our beginning of scaling out. We just had a conversation 2 days ago with many of the same partners here about more grants and more scaling out. So I think what we're doing is we're taking these things that we've discovered are very powerful, the community resources, the integration of all that, and tying that to an educational background and beginning to think about how we can scale out to the community.
Any other board members? Director Carl.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. It's exciting to see this come as far as it's come and the potential that it has in the future. It reminds me, I wrote a paper to the city of Santa Rosa, Dr. Cooper, that, something you said reminded me of that schools should be community centers. And I advanced to the city of Santa Rosa in 1990 that's in fact what we should do, and that we should pull in lots of different aspects of our community to make those community centers. And it's just really very cool to see this is exactly the kind of thing that was envisioned. The city never took us up on it, but we obviously found a way that the district could do that. And I think that bodes well. The issue really for me is how to scale this up. So.
Director Fong.
Thank you for that presentation, and this is an example of an exquisite program. So we thank Cap Sonoma and First Five and every other partner. Very proud that we do this. So if we're looking at your question, how might we intentionally leverage community partnerships to achieve positive outcomes for all students? I like hearing Mr. Mazura about scaling up and seeking grants and like that. By the way, were you cut? Did you have some funding cut by the county? Are you county funded?
First Five?
Yeah.
Our funding comes from the state, but it is declining because it's a tobacco tax. So people are smoking less, so the funding for 0 to 5 in the counties, for the First Fives in the counties. So.
Well, there's cannabis coming up, right?
Right. We're on the same
There's smoke something. I am not, but encouraging people to smoke pot. So this, if we take this out, right, ripples, and we're talking about leveraging community partnerships, I'm very proud of us because under your leadership, Diane, we're doing the Lewis Center with that kind of work with partners, and we're partnering with JC for CTE, and we're talking about all students, so we're talking, womb to grade 14 at least, I think. So in every way that we can be creative, in every way that we can be partners and have these kinds of community schools and expand that age range, That's what 21st century education needs to be like. And we need to tell our next governor, whoever that might be, that yes, this is the side we're on. I know that you agree. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your report and for your good work for all these years and for our community, and this partnership really is a model, and it's something that we should replicate, and so I like all the efforts that we're making to copy this model as we can and to scale as we can. And you know, we have sites all over the community. We have space all over the community, and so while we might not be able to have a comprehensive site like this, you know, we could be able to do things like parent education, and you know, that the research is really unequivocal. That's just, we're a K-12 district, but you know, you get more bang for your buck than anything else in investing early, and these are all our students if they're in our geographical area, so the more we can do to get them young, the better. And so I applaud the staff for continuing to look at ways to do that, to look at innovative partnerships, and to our partners for your work. And we look forward to hearing more. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we thank your parents very much for talking, and I apologize for the one time we don't have a translator here. I'm so sorry. Okay, F2, action item, City of Santa Rosa Elementary School District Parcel Tax Resolution.
Good evening, President Close, Superintendent Kitamura, members of the board. Tonight, we once again welcome Charles Heath to discuss and further the results of the polling and our options for moving forward with a parcel tax. This presentation will encompass both the elementary and high school district as a single presentation for items F2 and F3. To discuss our possibilities of moving forward and at what time, and on the timeline that we want to move forward. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Heath to take over the presentation.
Thank you. Good evening. So I thought we would start tonight by doing a brief recap of the fairly thorough discussion we had 2 weeks ago at your study session devoted to the parcel tax feasibility. At that time, we reviewed the results of the recent survey that was conducted to gauge local support for a potential parcel tax proposal, both in the elementary and the high school district. And there were a number of, I think, interesting findings that help guide our strategic decisions on how to proceed. First of all, the survey asked several questions to gauge overall perceptions of the school district and how local voters view the job that the school district is doing, providing a quality education and managing the current financial resources that you have available to you. And of those voters that had an opinion on those questions, we found generally positive marks for the school district and the job that you're currently doing. But interestingly, we also found that about 1 in 4 of the likely voters in your community didn't have opinions on those matters. They basically said, we don't know, which is always a red flag for us if a significant portion of the people that their voting history tells us they're likely to participate in the election and they don't have an opinion. There's a job that we have to do there to educate and inform those voters. When we narrowed in more specifically on a potential parcel tax proposal, when we were able to convey the positive messaging supporting a potential parcel tax, we found that support consistently exceeded the 2/3 threshold, which is a very positive finding. That's certainly not the case in many of the school districts where we conduct this kind of research. In the high school district, we found about 69% support, so a few points above that 2/3 threshold, and in the elementary district, about 71%. So again, even more comfortably above the 2/3 threshold. So it was really that led us to the general positive green light recommendation that a parcel tax is potentially feasible here. It's really a question of how do you structure it and what's the optimal timing for that proposal. So digging into some of those specifics, we tested a range of potential tax rates that might be presented to voters, and we generally found a comfort zone in the high school district of around $50 per parcel, which would generate about $3 million annually for that district, and about $75 per parcel in the elementary district, which would generate about $1 million annually. And those are the types of tax rates that we often find are palatable to voters for districts that are seeking to initiate a parcel tax, to create a parcel tax going from nothing to something. Typically, once a district has had a parcel tax in place for a number of years, has been able to demonstrate the value of those dollars, those locally controlled dollars to your educational program, then subsequent renewals of those measures, you're able to increase the tax rate over time and grow that funding for the district. Some of the other key exemptions and accountability requirements that we found would be important to the passage of the parcel tax. One is that, again, because you're creating a parcel tax for the first time here, having a relatively short duration for this initial approval would be important, and we found that the 8-year sunset would be a nice sweet spot. We find that 8 years is long enough that the district can have some stability for budgeting purposes, and also a long enough runway to show the difference you can make with those dollars, but also a short enough time frame so that the taxpayer feels confident that they'll have an opportunity to revisit the question in the relatively near future. When you get out to 10, 15, 20 years, it starts to sound like close to forever. There are 3 different types of exemptions that are available under California law that you can offer as part of a parcel tax proposal. A senior exemption for homeowners age 65 plus, and 2 types of exemptions that apply to low-income homeowners with disabilities, those that qualify for SSI and SSDI benefits. And we found that including those would be important, and which is common for virtually all parcel taxes in the state, which is to offer those exemptions to folks that may be on a fixed income and most impacted by the cost of the measure. We also found that building in fiscal accountability would be important too. It's true here, but it's true most places, that voters like to know that there's an extra layer of oversight and accountability to ensure that their tax dollars are going to be spent properly. You're not required to do that for a parcel tax like you are for a bond, but most school districts do elect to include those accountability protections in a bond proposal. So in addition, we looked at how voters would prioritize the potential use of funds from a parcel tax measure. And you can see here the list of items actually in the rank order that voters told us were priorities. And you can see here that pretty consistently voters want the monies focused on programmatic needs. So improving the quality of academic programs in science, technology, and engineering and math. Statewide trend is that STEM is recognized as a high priority among voters and educators for that matter. Providing music at elementary schools, attracting and retaining excellent teachers, enhancing reading and writing programs. So really sort of providing stable funding to protect, enhance those core elements of education are what the voters are willing to support. So that's a quick summary of what we learned about how we might structure a measure. As we discussed 2 weeks ago, I think maybe the biggest strategic question before us is what's the best timing for a parcel tax? When do we want to take that to voters? And as we discussed at that time, you have a number of options, whereas for bond measures in California, school districts have a limited set of options for when you can take a measure to the ballot. The parcel tax law, for whatever reason, is a lot more flexible, and it gives you a number of additional election dates. So the first opportunity when we might take a parcel tax to the ballot would be this November, right, about 3 months from now. And obviously that's a gubernatorial general election. It's also a board and city municipal election here locally. So that's one option. As we'll talk about in a minute, there's a quickly passing timeline to both get that measure on the ballot and take the steps to prepare for that election to occur. But because the way parcel taxes go on the property tax rolls, there are 3 election opportunities in the first half of 2019 when your parcel tax would actually hit property tax bills and the district would start receiving revenue at the exact same time as if you were to approve the measure this November in 2018. That could be a special election in March, an all-mail ballot special election in May, or a special election in June of 2019. Any one of those elections would get your measure or your funding on property tax bills in time to receive funding in the 2019-2020 fiscal year. Beyond that, there are some options later in 2019 in August and November, and also in March and May of 2020. But choosing any of those election dates would mean an additional year wait until you start seeing revenue from that measure. So that's sort of a look at the election date options from a fiscal perspective, right, when you would actually receive the money. The other way to look at it is just from a planning and strategic perspective. So here's the timeline that we looked at a couple weeks ago. If you wanted to place a measure on this November's ballot, and this lays out the steps that we typically recommend that a school district undertake in preparation for a parcel tax election. The legal deadline to place a measure on this November's ballot is this Friday, August 10th. So effectively, this meeting is our last opportunity to adopt the resolutions calling for this election and then moving into the campaign phase. What I would see as one of the most significant downsides of this aggressive timeline is that you would be left with essentially no time to do the type of consensus building, stakeholder outreach that school districts typically do to make sure everyone's on the same page before this goes to the ballot. And just because of the speed at which we've been operating, that would be very difficult, and we would have to move directly into an advocacy campaign. As we talked about a couple weeks ago as well, there would be some competing taxes on that same ballot that you would want to consider locally in thinking about that opportunity. As I mentioned before, the next opportunity that we would recommend that you take a significant look at or a serious look at would be the May 2019 all mail-in ballot special election. One of the interesting findings from the polling was that there was no statistical difference in support across different elections. So oftentimes when we see the modeled turnout for a higher turnout election like we'll have in November 2018 compared to a special election like we'll have in 2019, you see a fairly significant difference in support because the demographics of those who vote in those two different types of elections change. We didn't see that here. Across age groups, different ethnicities, different income groups, support was relatively constant. And the nice thing from your perspective is that gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of when you might take a measure to the voters. So we do a lot of parcel tax measures in these off-year mail ballot elections. It's quite common. We've done it here in Sonoma and in Marin County, and they have a high track record of success. I think one of the benefits of this approach is that now you have until February of next year, February of 2019, to, in a more methodical way, implement those steps to conduct the outreach, build consensus, make sure everyone's on the same page as you take your proposal to the ballot, and then also prepare to then move into an advocacy campaign, which shouldn't be underestimated because the 2/3 vote, strong advocacy is always required to get these measures over the top. I also anticipate that if you were to choose one of these off-year special elections, you would likely be the only issue on the ballot, so you wouldn't be competing with other taxes at the same time, which is typically an advantage when you need a 2/3 vote. And just to look at the last possible timeline, if you wanted to wait until the next opportunity for a higher turnout election, March 2020, again, under this scenario, you're waiting an additional year to receive revenue, so you need to think about how that would impact your budget. But California has moved its presidential primary for the 2020 cycle to March. We all know that it's going to be an open, competitive field, particularly on the Democratic side. We expect that that's going to inspire significant voter turnout. So that's also an option that many of our clients are looking at when they think about future election opportunities. But again, when we modeled turnout in that election compared to what you might see in 2019 or 2018, there was no statistically significant difference between support in those elections. So what we've done tonight is we have prepared resolutions for both districts, both the elementary and high school district, that would authorize you to place a parcel tax on this November's ballot. The terms of those proposals are consistent with the recommendations that I just summarized from our polling in terms of the tax rate, the duration, the exemptions, the accountability protections. So you have that there available to you, and the timeline is open to still call an election for this November. But I think what would be helpful for us is to receive some direction from the board on, are we moving on that timeline? And if not, which of these alternate election dates might be a preferred target so that we can build a timeline to make sure we've taken those steps to prepare for one of those elections.
Thank you. I don't have any blue cards from the audience, so I'll turn it back from the board. And since it's really kind of one discussion, we have 2 action items on the resolutions, but why don't we have the discussion in total right now, any questions and comments that you have, and then we'll take the action items in order. Director Christoph.
My first question is on the voting process. Do we have to have a supermajority to place a tax measure on the ballot? Or do we just, as a simple majority, all we need?
Simple majority of the board for parcel tax.
So it could go 4-3 or 5-2, okay. I do have a few things to say about this because I did mention last time my problem with the regressive nature of parcel tax. And, I've worked in a lot of elections, I think, like many of my fellow board members over the years, and I have worked, mainly as a volunteer, worked on my own campaigns, but also professionally. And I was, reflecting on all the elections I worked in, and there's one that I've never worked on, and that's a parcel tax. And I think it's because it's a very rare animal. We've got, 1,000 school districts in California, and probably only, 10% of the districts, mainly urban, San Francisco area, wealthy, have passed parcel taxes. And I think the reason is very clear. It's a very regressive tax. About a month ago at a legislative committee meeting with the California School Boards Association, the concept was brought up. Should we ask the legislature to reduce the 66 2/3 majority down to 55% like our bonds, had transitioned? And people around the room, for the most part, said no. And I can understand very well why. Because it's not the way to finance school districts. It is, for me, it is a tax or a method that was brought forward after Prop 13. The idea was that we were going to make it a more progressive tax down the line, but in every instance that was defeated. And so it remains probably the most regressive tax I can think of right now. And I think about the idea of people paying, for a parcel. So you've got, let's say, the Santa Rosa Mall. You've got the Press Democrat. They pay the same amount. You've got, let's say, Cottingtown. They pay the same amount. I had a former student I ran into about 2 months ago, was buying his first home. 1,100 square feet, working 2 jobs. His fiancée was working full-time. And that $125 is surely different than it is for a large commercial or corporately owned apartment house complex. So I think it's very important to point that out and to understand what this means to our community. It's very important that we have the extra money. We can use the $4 million. I, for the most part, am opposed to this almost absolutely. There is a little window that I would support a parcel tax. But also when you talk about what it amounts to, $4 million is just a little over 2% of our budget. And my hope is that our new governor, if the one that's elected that I'm hoping is going to be elected, will be much more favorable to education. So I wouldn't discount the state doing their job or supposedly doing their job. They're the ones that should be financing our schools, and we are woefully underfinanced. But to put it on the backs of certain homeowners, I think is not necessarily fair. And I think when you look at the extent of what parcel taxes do around the state, some districts can afford $1,200, $1,000 a parcel. We can't afford that. Many districts can't afford anything. So it's continually building inequality into the system, something that we've been fighting to get rid of over the years. A couple more things I think are important to remember. SRTA presidents have brought up parcel taxes since I can remember. Every SRTA president that I can think of has mentioned that. The board, we are going through a lot of things, for whatever reason, have not responded. I appreciate the fact that this board responded in May and has said, let's go ahead with it. But I think in both cases, both in the temporary, excuse me, the current case and historically, what has not been there is the consensus that is necessary in order for us to move forward. For me to move forward, I would need the thoughts of teachers, the thoughts of classified, the thoughts of parents, the thoughts of all those, as many people as possible who are going to be paying that parcel tax. That is single family owners, people that own a condo, so people who are not, maybe on a shoestring budget. Our community has quite a bit of poverty in it. A lot of people are barely making their mortgage payments. So I think that group of people needs to be brought in order to build a consensus. Can we do this for the November election? No. Could I sign on and say, oh, we'll go ahead and, between now and February, we'll have a consensus, so we'll do it in May. I can't support that until I know the consensus is there. Then I can support a particular date. I would hope that, we've heard from the demographers, we've heard from people that, the ballot is crowded this November. That's true. I think that I think it's important to understand that we have a lot of needs in this community. We talked about housing, we're talking about parks, we need roads. Schools are very important. They're in my heart. But I think we need to do this right. We need to stop, we need to slow down, not set a date, bring the people together, talk about what this is that we're doing, and then also about, how we're going to spend the money specifically, as clearly as we can. We have some generalities out there, but there needs to be agreement among the participants in this. So for me, I cannot support this resolution, nor could I support a resolution until we have, in terms of a date, until we have a clear, a line of consensus that I think is really building toward something that is meaningful. Because unless we do that, again, we're taking advantage of a tax system that is just the antithesis of what we've been preaching as far as the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board members? Questions? Director Anderson.
So I feel to some extent I carry the mantle for people who lost their homes in the fires, and other nights of the week I spend at meetings where people are struggling to figure out how to buy that tree that we have to get in order to get the permit, in order to occupy our house. And so I know that we're a small and dwindling group because our camels are so full of straw. And so I just want the board to be mindful that you would be adding another straw. It probably isn't the last straw, but it is another straw to a very full camel. And they're not significant in terms of our numbers aren't significant in terms of the survey, and they wouldn't change a vote. But I do think that they deserve our consideration. But I also think that this survey offers it some really great opportunities because it has really good information in it. The fact that, there's a good portion of our community does think that we're providing a quality education, but there's almost 30% who don't, and that's concerning to me. I think that, and a lot of the findings just came out as, well, okay, it's okay, but boy, I think we'd like to do better. And I would think that it would behoove us to use this survey, use what we've learned, and work on it, make our image stronger, get people to understand what it is that we do and why they should believe in us. And then I love that, of course, the fact that STEM or STEAM actually, since with music right up there near the top, that came out so strong as a priority want, certainly speaks to my heart, and it is very much in keeping with what the state educators, certainly at CSBA. Our friend Susan Decker said that if your district doesn't have STEAM or STEM as its priority right now, you're going to be struggling mightily in 10 years. So I would love to see this packaged as the STEAM tax and make it very clear where this money is going. And I would love it, have it completely geared toward STEAM programs and making that our priority as a district. And I also think that that would tie in with improving our image and helping people understand what we do and how we can provide for our students in a way that truly prepares them for college and careers. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Anderson. Director Carl.
Thank you. The most recent information that I could find was 2012 information that indicated about 25% of the school districts in the state of California had attempted a parcel tax, and about 1 in 8 had been successful. So something in the order of around 12%. I assume since 2012 that's gone up, and unless a whole bunch of those sunsetted out, my guess is we're probably up in the 15% range. Do you know?
I don't know a specific number, but I think your math is generally correct, and I can tell you that once you have a parcel tax, no one lets them sunset.
Right. From my perspective, local funding is an economic development issue. And a strong education program is a foundation of a community. And it ends up being a foundation of a community to attract not only people to work within the district, but people to work in other industries within the community. And so it ends up being a direct kick to economic development. And certainly this is a community that needs that kind of a kick over the course of the next few years, if for no other reason than we took it in the shorts last year, and that tells us that we need to redouble our efforts. Unfortunately, in the state of California, if you're going to raise money locally for education, other than a parcel tax, you'd have to get businesses or other groups to put in money on a grant or volunteer basis, and somehow I think that we're able to do that with various partnerships and related to various programs, but certainly not to a level to have a significant impact like this parcel tax or some other mechanism can be. So from that perspective, it seems to me that we ought to continue to have the discussion about a parcel tax, because it's our only real way in which we can increase that local funding. And there are districts that are within 20 miles of here that as the crow flies, have substantially greater funds. And there are various reasons for that. And it's certainly something that we ought to look at. I believe that for a parcel tax to be successful, though, we need to be exceedingly clear about what it is for, and that it is specifically for the following 2 things, 5 things, whatever it happens to be. And given the polling information that indicates to us that we can raise $3 million at the high school level and $1 million with the elementary level, I suspect that that list is going to be relatively limited. But we need to know what that list is. There's been some history in Sonoma County of attempts to get taxes passed that weren't specific, that essentially were it's a general fund money. Bring it to us, trust us, we'll spend it the way we should spend it. Failed at the county level. And I get that. I think that folks want to know that if you want money, what is it going to be used for, and will you be in fact accountable that that's what it's used for? I agree with Director Anderson that the primary focus ought to be STEAM. The other thing that's important to me and has been for quite some time and polls well is music in the elementary school district. I think those are 2 things that could have a strong impact and have a direct impact on student achievement, and that the community as a whole could get a hold of and understand. In order to do that, I think what we have to have staff, if folks agreed that we were moving forward and having discussion, we need to have something come back that says, if you had $3 million in the high school district, this is what you could do with it. If you had $1 million in the elementary school district, this is what you could do with it. And I think that, as Director Kristoff indicates, it's got to be built in a consensus with the folks that are the interest groups that not only include our own staff, but others, parent groups as well. So I'd like to see some direction that way. And some specific understanding of what we could buy with $3 million and $1 million over an 8-year period of time. The other thing that I think is important, and you said it, an 8-year is important so that you have budget stability. We also ought to recognize that if it sunsets at 8 years, that we have to be very careful about what ongoing expenses we take on as a result of that, where we don't have any freedom to back that off or a secondary source to deal with that. The hope obviously is that we prove to the public in that 8-year period of time that the money was well spent, that it had an impact, that it was important for student achievement, and it was important for the definition of what makes Santa Rosa education strong and makes the community strong. I think we can do that. But I think we ought to keep in mind that we shouldn't completely lock ourselves in with something that then at the end of 8 years, what are we going to do? So with those comments, I don't support that it goes through November. I don't think that we can do it in a timely fashion. I don't think we've built consensus. SRTA's statement is clear to me, and they're an important, exceedingly important part of this, and we need them on board as well. I'd like to see if we could do something by May. I think we have the time to build the consensus and to build the budget around specific programs that could sell a very strong story to the community about why this is important. So I would rather not put the brakes on from that perspective, but certainly for November, no.
Director Fong. Uncertain, but going.
I know, I was listening to my fellow board members, and I really appreciate everything that all of you have said. It just feels like this is really painting us into the corner, because I completely agree that this is a situation that just builds inequity. Absolutely. And that our state chooses to fund education the way it does is forcing districts like ours into this kind of corner. And I'm asking the question, is there any, it's probably rhetorical, it's probably no answer to this, is there any other kind of tax that's not regressive that we put to support schools? I think the answer is no.
The answer is no.
I'm also concerned, like Director Anderson pointed out, that we are not having a larger percentage of people who are happy with the school district for whatever reason. And what I know about schools is that it's grapevine. It's grapevine. We hear about schools in the aisles of the grocery store. If your child is having a good school year, then that is the best school district in the world. If your child is having a bad school year, apropos of anything, then we're not doing well. And so I think with some of the hard things that have happened between SRTA and district, and we're fixing it, and we're going forward with very positive intent, and I see a lot of positive intent. We need to see more of that, and we need to have SRTA and CSEA be partners with us, complete partners with us in terms of, use the word consensus, about what we're spending the money on, and I agree with STEAM. But also there's something in here that says that I think we don't understand this phrase, and the phrase could be a lightning rod for us. Attract and retain teachers. That is going to take a whole lot of exploration, because, as Director Carl pointed out, we cannot base total package benefits, salaries on a parcel tax. So I think this is going to take a while. I think it's going to take us more than this school year to do this together and to have a school year where we're figuring out who's coming to school and how we're doing our programs with all the new things that we're doing, positive things that we support. I would support this for 2020, I believe.
Okay, so it comes back to me, and I will, I'd agree with Director Christoph that it's unfortunate that one of our very few tools is regressive, and well, both of our tools are regressive, but our only tool for programs and people is regressive, and that is unfortunate. I don't have a lot of faith in the state, that the state's gonna increase our funding anytime soon. The last time they increased our funding from the governor's office, the legislator increased our liabilities, to such a high degree that it didn't matter that we had a whole lot more money from the governor's office. So I have very little faith in our state government. I think that now more than ever, it is a time where we have to invest locally in our schools. We have to embrace our schools, take local ownership for them, or we're going to be in trouble. And it is an issue not just of our students' education, but as Director Carl said, an issue of economic development. And we just have limited tools. This is it. So we have bonds for stuff and facilities, and we have parcel tax for people and programs. We passed this new graduation policy, and we promised everybody that we were going to put in place programs and people to help support that. So this is an opportunity to pay for that, to raise money to pay for that, to increase programs to support that. The STEM polling is very clear, and that really is in line also with moving forward with our A through G, or the STEAM polling and STEM polling, with our A through G requirements. And so I think that is something that we need to look at, and being very narrowly focused, as Director Carl said, I think that's a great idea. We should definitely be learning from these polling numbers. Director Anderson, Director Fong, absolutely correct. That is a concerning figure. However, I don't think it's the image that we need to be thinking about. I think it's the performance. When we talked about A through G, one of the reasons we passed it is because we looked at our numbers and we said, we are not doing as well as the state average by a lot. We've got some improvements to make. So we need to change people's minds by changing outcomes, and that takes some investment. So I absolutely agree that we need to be specific, we need to be targeted. I was real gung-ho about going forward in November because I thought there's so many boots on the ground out there passing so many stuff, and everybody wants to invest in Santa Rosa, and they might not be happy about us being on the ballot too, but they're gonna carry our stuff because they support it. And so that was my thinking. I've kind of come around on that, and I've been heavily lobbied, I will be honest, by everybody who has something on the ballot to say, let's go with May. And so I said, and I'll see you campaigning for us, won't I? And so I have really come around on that because I want it to be the best chance of us passing, and we get the money at the same time. I think that we need to take advantage of time. If we're going to put it on the ballot in May, which is what I would support at this point, let's keep moving with getting some direction from the staff about what it is that can look like, how we can target that money so it can be most impactful. Of course, in the description, we have to be really careful. It has to be really tailored so that we're saying how we're going to be impactful, and we're choosing things that are impactful, but we still retain some flexibility in that language, and it has the kind of language that people will vote for. So let's be real calculated about that. And again, let's use our time. So I agree with Director Carl and say, let's keep marching forward on this. Let's talk about what exactly we want that language to look like. And while it sounds like we probably don't even need to vote on resolutions tonight, it would be great to vote on resolutions soon so that we can start a May campaign soon and make sure that it's passed. There's a lot of opportunity, here. There's a lot of need, and so I hope that we can keep moving forward. And that would be my preference, is that we target May, but that we keep talking about this on a regular basis in the next couple of months. Director Christoph.
Thank you. If we were to take a look at May, and I know you've mentioned the consensus several times, and I know how you've run these campaigns and how important it is. We have an obligation to file for special mail-in ballot in February, is that correct?
That's right, first week in February.
Okay, so we could take a look and develop a plan for consensus that we could maybe do ASAP and then maybe take a real serious look at it, maybe at the beginning of December or sometime in December, and see where we are and have a discussion about this? Does that make sense?
If we decide that we would potentially look at May, then we need to create a timeline so that we could gather consensus, do all the things we just talked about all night long here, or not all night, but this last item. So we would create a timeline to see when those would come to the board. And I can't tell you what that is until we map it out. Director Carl?
The other thing I'd like to come back is an estimate of the cost of the mail-in ballot election to us, because obviously the county elections office doesn't do it for free. We have to pay for it.
Right.
And my recollection is that the cost for board elections is in the neighborhood of $125,000 to $150,000. But that's probably 4, maybe 8 years old but I doubt the number has changed substantially from that. So it'd be nice to get an understanding based on the number of ballots that have to go out, what our cost would be.
Yeah, we did get an estimate from the Sonoma County Registrar of Voters that we can share with you.
Okay, so, reconsidering, Director Pugh, join us.
I agree with everybody.
Yeah.
But I think May is more prudent. I think we need to see what our enrollment looks like this fall. And we need to remember, and maybe I'm the only one who remembers this, we had done a partial tax before in the district for both elementary and secondary, and it failed. So we just need to kind of maybe learn from that experience and be more prudent. But I think May is a good month. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I think that what I'm hearing is that kind of next steps would be to come back with a timeline for put a partial tax on in May, come up with the cost estimates for doing that, and then also from staff, some ideas on what do we do with $4 million? Okay.
Do we all have those notes? I know I have my notes. I think that what has been said tonight in terms of what the polling brought back is full of awesome information about the direction that the pollers said. The one other thing, or a couple other things, is the don't know, we need to have them know. And so I think that's another piece, because that was a percentage. And for me, the third thing is around the board, who's going to be on the board after November, and then strategic planning about priorities, because I think that has to go hand in hand. What is the board's priority so that it can be very clear and succinct to the people with whom we're building consensus. So that, for me, is what is milling around in my head that we will begin working on as a staff to bring back to the board as soon as possible.
Thank you. So I'm going to, unless there's an objection, I'm just going to pull F2 and F3 action items, and then we're going to take a 5-minute break, and I'm going to let Director Carl take over and proceed with F4. So we're on a break, 5 minutes.
I had no way to get things going. You know, I'm going like this, you know. It worked. That's the same impact. All right, welcome back. We're going to move to item F4. This is approval of a day budget revision.
Good evening, members of the board. Superintendent Kitamura. Tonight, we are bringing the required revision to the state, to our budget based on the passage of the state budget on June 27th. As you know, we oftentimes approve our budget not knowing what will be fully funded from the state. Because of that, the state gives us 45 days to note any significant changes based on their adopted budget. So tonight we have presented you with the significant changes and the changes to our 2018-19 budget. Joel Dantos, Executive Director of Fiscal Services, will go over those changes.
Thank you. So I'll start with a brief recap on what was included in our budget that we adopted on June 27th. This year, the governor did sign the Budget Act on June 27th, the same day that we adopted our budget. However, on June 18th, the Budget Act did pass through the Senate and the Assembly bill, and we did incorporate a number of those items into our general fund budget preparation. And I'll go over the changes that are included in this 45-day revision and how they affect our budget. So the two major categories in the state funding are, the state funding is our single largest revenue source in the district, and the two major categories in the state funding affected by the governor's budget act that was signed in June, that was an update from the May revision, was in the state LCFF funding, and specifically the COLA multiplier that defines our revenue. And at May revision, the COLA was targeted at 3%. The State Budget Act updated the COLA to be 3.7%, so that did increase our LCFF funding. Now, the other area in the budget that was revised from May revised to the June Budget Act was the state's one-time funding. At May revised, the state's one-time funding was targeted at $344 per ADA, and at Budget Act, that one-time funding actually reduced to $184 per ADA. Now again, in our general fund, we did incorporate those changes into the budget, and before the 45-day budget revision, I did update those numbers and confirm that the revenues included in the budget were accurate for the LCFF funding in the COLA, so there were no changes in that specific revenue. However, when we put together the updated projections for the one-time funding, we used a figure of $168 per ADA, and now after going through the Budget Act and realizing that actual number, it turned out to be $184 per ADA, and the result in that was an increase to our one-time revenue of $208,258. Now, so that was the overall changing in revenues to our general fund. With regards to the charter schools, we did not incorporate the full effect of the June Budget Act into those, and we continue with the May revise, and now we've updated those to include going from the 3% COLA to the 3.7% COLA in the charter funds, which showed an increase in revenue of $79,427. And we revised the one-time money from the $344 to the $184, and that resulted in a reduction in one-time revenue of $191,570. And that summarizes the overall net effects of the revenue changes with regards to the State Budget Act being passed in June. We took this opportunity to also review our positions that we have included in our budget, and we identified two positions that are not continuing in 18-19, and the result was a reduction in expenditures in those salaries of $180,584. So the resulting The results of those changes to our budget, including the 45-day revision, have a net effect on the overall budget of an increase in the general fund operating net increase in ending fund balance of $394,000 to $394,259, and an ending result in the ending fund balance of the charter schools of a reduction of an increase or reduction of $112,142 to the ending fund balance. So what are the next steps in the budget, in 2018 budget? We're going to come back in September with the unaudited actuals report that for 2017-18 that identify the actual revenues and expenditures that we have, and that'll create the actual beginning balance for 2018-19. And in December, we'll come back with our first interim financial report for the 2018-19 budget that will be updated with actual expenses through October 31st and updated revenues, actual updated expenses through October 31st and revised projections for expenses through the rest of the year. And we'll come back with revenues based on updated enrollment information and a lot of other planning factors that will be updated in the fall that we'll prepare and include in our revenues. And that concludes the presentation for the 45-day budget revision, and we can take any questions now.
Thank you. Board member questions or comments? If not, it is an action item.
Move F4.
Second.
Motion by Director Christoph, seconded by Director Fong. Roll call vote, please.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Fong? Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Thank you. That was very clear. Appreciate it. Move to item F5. This is a discussion item on Santa Rosa City Schools' new website, mobile application, and flyer distribution.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Kitamura. Tonight we're very excited to present what will be our new website for Santa Rosa City Schools. With me tonight to present is Beth Burke, our communications coordinator, who has spearheaded the effort to really create something new from something old. As we've talked about in numerous discussions, both here and throughout the school district and with the community, our website as it currently sits is not always the easiest site to find things on. It hasn't been consistently updated over the course of several years, and we really needed to provide something new that had relevant information and also met the new compliance standards that all websites have to meet in order to allow anyone to view our website, whether visually or hearing impaired. So taking on this project was no small task, and over the course of the last 6 to 7 months, we are at the point now where we're going through final looks, final revisions, final additions, getting some things ready to actually redirect traffic from our current website to our new website. So we expect that to happen in the next few days, and if not by the first day of school, where this will be our official website for Santa Rosa City Schools. I'm going to turn it over to Beth Burke to talk about some of the features and functionality of the website, as well as what we're doing with the mobile application that was also approved when we brought on the website, and also a digital flyer system. So with that, I'll hand it to Beth.
Thank you so much. Am I Thank you very much. I'm thrilled to bring this to you tonight. It's been a long time coming. As you can see from the screenshot there, we put something on the screen right now, which is a special message. And right now we're just telling people that this is a website under construction. We'd love to hear from you if you can't find something that you're looking for. We also took a chance to pitch our newsletter and sign up for the district's monthly newsletter. But that would be the type of important message alert that we might put on our website if we had an emergency in our district. So I think it's wonderful that we have the capability to have that message, and it stays, do you mind, Rick, just navigating? It stays, all right, yeah, click the OK, got it. So the message itself, see the little exclamation point in red over in the corner, that stays on every page that the person who's visiting the website will visit as long as we consider there to be an important message on our site. So you can see right now one of the big benefits of this site is that we have a much more visual site. We're able to show pictures from our district that change. There are buttons to click and learn more. We have buttons for specific items that we feel are the most used items that would be handy for parents and also to staff who might want to be looking for jobs. We have the Your Rights section, which is new, where we put all of our ADA accessibility, any Williams complaint, rights that people have in our district. Another beautiful visual element where we have news stories, and if we hover over any of the news stories, there's a welcome to click and learn more. And those can be integrated with our app later. And then as we scroll up, we have a calendar. Actually, that works. Yay. And a view full calendar button where someone could click there and actually download the instructional calendar for the school year. Back to the site, I think another really important thing is to have our social media highlighted. And so Facebook is the most popular social media with our parents, but we do have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our YouTube channel, which we're airing on right now. And so we're able here to have people be able to click on our Facebook and sign up right there on our website. Another great element of this website is the sign-in button on the bottom. We've created basically an intranet for our staff. They can sign in with Google and see a channel that is hidden from the public viewers of the website. It's called the Staff Hub. And there right now we placed our documents about our phone system, including information that we wouldn't necessarily want the public to know. We also have Illuminate Education training for teachers located there in a place that they can easily find it. And I think one of the more important aspects of this site is the little spyglass up at the top. We can actually search the site using a Google search that's ad-free because we're an educational institution. And so if you type in attendance, and search, Google is still crawling the site, and so it's still learning what's on our site. But the first thing that comes up in attendance is our news story on attendance, which links someone to more information and information that families need on how they can get attendance support. And if you happen to type in absent or absence, that would get you to that location as well. So Google's doing a pretty good job, even though it's newly crawling this site. And then I wanted to point out too, in our district, we have a section on the school board, and there we have streamlined. Things might look streamlined and they might look fairly simple, but what we're finding is that our families and our community are using mobile devices. So streamlining does someone on a mobile device a big favor, and that's why we tried to keep our pages simple. We also use headings because headings can be used by people with disabilities when they're using screen readers. So the ADA accessibility of this site is much improved. And then I think now we're ready to talk about the app. Oh, the directory, yes, thank you, Rick. Our staff directory, thank you to Rand Van Dyke, who spent hours with me importing our staff. We're still working on getting photos, but our goal is to have photos of our staff members in this searchable directory. So for example, if we type in our superintendent's name and search, you do have to click search, you can't click return. We do have a picture for her, and if you click on that person's entry, you can also see their phone number and dial their phone number, especially if you're on your mobile device looking at this. So our goal is to have that for all of our staff this year. Do you want to look any more at any other?
Are there any questions about the website before we go on to the mobile app?
Sure. So schools, we have a page which is what we used to have on our old site, a list of all of our schools, and if you click on any of those schools, it takes you to that school's page. We also, in the schools drop-down, have separated the schools, elementary, middle, high, charter schools. The schools have their map, they have their main contact numbers, pictures, and links to the website. We will have the SARC reports in there shortly, links to the library website for that particular school. Any other questions about the website? The staff directory is staff, all staff, teachers and classified staff.
Yeah, staff directory.
Mm-hmm. And once again, if a teacher or staff member were to sign in on the bottom with Google Sign In, because they have an SRCS email address, up at the top next to quick links, they would see Staff Hub as a channel option and could click there for staff specific information. At the end of the quick links, there's a page about the Staff Hub that explains what I just said to staff. If they click Staff Hub there at the very top in the first sentence, the blue Staff Hub, they're prompted to sign in. And they can use the red Google button to sign in one sign in. So a couple other things. We're working with Blackboard to develop this website, and we also use Blackboard for our parent notification emails and our calls. I call them robocalls, parents, but we're able now, because we have the Blackboard website, to also develop a Blackboard app. And that was waiting for the website to be published in order for them to finish developing it. But if we go to the next page, you'll see an example of what it looks like. This is a screenshot of the app in development on my phone. So we'll have our colors, we'll have our top stories that automatically feed into our Blackboard app. We'll have a link to the Illuminate Education portal. The notifications envelope would be, if we sent a notification out to our families, they could go and see an archive of that notification. So if they missed the call, they could see it in there. And then the next page on the right is actually, if you were to look at the app and go to the second page, there's a directory there, a way to donate automatically. The sports is customizable by different sports teams at different schools. And all of these things, we will be working to create an experience that a parent could eventually choose to see mostly things from their own schools, if that's what they wanted to do, the sports scores from their schools. Right now, it's more general to the district, all our social media. That takes you to the child nutrition services page where you can get lunch menus. And if we could go to the next page, unless you want to say something.
Yeah, I just want to, I think what's really important about this is we're seeing, not unlike any other community, the use of cell phones and mobile applications, even through the parcel tax polling. I don't remember the number, but I believe it was somewhere between 60 and 70% either answered through their cellular phone or clicked a link through email, and most likely on their cellular phone to take the survey for that. We've also experienced that with other things that we've done in the district where mobile is number one. And so to Beth's point, when we designed the website, it was a mobile first mentality, that you're more likely to go to our website via a phone than you are a computer browser. And second, if you have an app that can be tied into the school, we can actually push alerts directly to those people who have the app installed. It'll also be tied in with our student information system, so it provides another level of communication that's highly targeted to our community members and specifically our parents and students who will choose to download this app when we release it.
So just as an example, if you were to click on that second page there on the contacts, you would find contacts for all of our schools, and you'd also find contacts for the school board. And if you were to click on one of those names, I clicked on Jenny's name, Jenny Close, and her contact information is right there, and actually someone could click add to contacts and put that in their phone right away. So the nice thing about the app is it's instantaneous for someone who's looking for information or looking to get in touch with someone. And then the other thing we wanted to talk about tonight briefly is the digital flyers by Peach Jar. Our district is moving, like many other districts, from paper to digital for many reasons, but mostly it is because this is where our families get their information. And so this morning we launched with Peach Jar. The first flyer was posted, and this view is the view you would get if you were on our new website and you clicked on the Peach Jar link, and then you went to our school flyers and clicked on Abraham Lincoln Elementary School. There was one flyer in there early this morning, my flyer that I created. The other thing that I'd like to point out is that all of our flyers will be in English and in Spanish. So this is also meeting a very important demographic in our district. And the flyers themselves have to be entered into the Peach Jar system to be ADA accessible. So you're required to provide an alternative text to someone who's using a screen reader to read the flyer. All things that are very important to reach all of our families. And then if we just show you what the flyer looks like, you can see how the same flyer's in English and Spanish. And Peach Jar has a fairly good support system, which I'm hoping will help our community adjust to this, but we know that other districts very nearby, Napa, Sonoma, Novato, San Rafael, have been using Peach Jar and have been very successful transitioning to digital flyers.
I think this is probably one of the more important things, along with the website. With the new compliance standards that we have to meet, we have to evaluate how we even post board agendas now and the attachments that go with those. So having a tool like this to ensure that, one, our digital flyers are compliant, and two, both in English and Spanish, and an easy way for parents and the community to find them. One thing I don't think Beth mentioned, they'll also be housed in perpetuity, so we can go back and see what flyers were at a school site, or you can use those flyers again easily versus having to recreate or having to remember where those flyers were stored. So school flyers will have their own repository, and this is the start of trying to be compliant as a district to meet the new ADA regulations.
Dr. Christoph.
This is kind of fun. My question is, now we're going to have Spanish language at every school, all 26 of our schools, is that correct? Spanish language flyers in every school?
We're requiring that all of our flyers for all schools will be submitted in English and in Spanish.
Okay, and how is that, who translates that?
That is a very good question, and that is the responsibility of whoever's posting the flyer at the district, just like it has been for our paper flyers. For example, later today, I posted an integrated wellness center flyer on the same site, and we had to get that flyer translated by our translation staff here when we created the paper flyer. If it is for the community, then the community members, the organizations, for example, if the YMCA wanted to post a flyer, they would be responsible to get the flyer translated into Spanish.
As far as quality control, how do we proof or how do we evaluate the quality of the content? I mean, it's important that these be top notch, you know, that everything is as professional as we can possibly make it. Do we have anybody that's going to oversee this?
So flyers in our district have been overseen by some of our staff in the curriculum and instruction, now teaching and learning department. And they were the check on the flyers to make sure that they met our guidelines for flyers. And they'll continue to check those. And then within the schools, each school will have their flyer administrator chosen by their principal.
Director Anderson.
Thank you, Beth. This is a very welcome and overdue change. It's been really frustrating to go through as a parent and not be able to find information, so I'm very happy for this development. And I noticed on the school board menu that there was election information. Is there a spot for candidate information, like a candidate profile?
As a school district, we can't put up candidate information, I don't believe, on our website.
I'm wondering, and we ought to find this out because I think it's a wonderful idea. I wonder if we can post the ballot statement, for instance, because it's, you know, that's being published to everybody anyway. It'd be interesting if we could provide that.
We will get legal counsel on that. But part of me says, oh, I don't know if we should do that. But the other part of me says, well, if everybody's statement's up there, you know, so we'll check.
Precisely, yeah.
And I suspect when you check with them, you also need to look at who gets first. And I suspect that there's a system by which they can be rotated because that makes a difference. If there are 3 people running and one person is always the first one listed, is that tantamount to saying the district supports that person? It obviously isn't. So that's, you know, you got to look for that.
Really good questions. Yeah, that is exactly my thinking, was the ballot information. But we've also had the question around having maybe more words in, you know, and here would be a really cheap and easy way to allow a candidate to have more words if it's legally possible at all. So I hear that it's a problematic question, but it just seems like an opportunity that we might be able to seize.
We'll check.
Also consider what links could be in there. For instance, the League of Women Voters has a tendency to put stuff online that candidates can deal with, so I mean, it can go on. But the more information out, the better. Thank you. This is fabulous. It's wonderful to see this. Am I going to be able to go on my iPad with the website and get it all on one screen and be able to find the agenda and minutes? I can't do that with the current iPad. I got to go to either the Chrome or my laptop computer because I can't get it on the iPad. It just condenses it and only a few things show.
We have been assured that this is a responsive website, and I certainly would want you to call me if you cannot see this website on your iPad.
I'll go home and try it. Yeah. We'll see what happens. Second thing is, I've tried it on the mobile, on my phone in the past to get on, and I have similar issues to the iPad. But it sounds like with the app, that will completely eliminate. I can just use the app and I'll be able to cruise around and get stuff. Mm-hmm. Although when I look at the app, it doesn't say that I'm going to be able to get agenda and minutes on the app. Is that going to happen?
We could certainly put a direct link to Agenda Online on there as an icon that would bring you to that web page so you could then find your the agenda or minutes that you were looking for. I will make a point, Director Carl, you're absolutely right. The current website as designed was told to be responsive, but it never was, and it was only responsive at one particular cell phone screen size. and you couldn't go left or right, and you couldn't really scroll up and down. And then there was no responsiveness built into the pages, so if a sentence went beyond 4 words, you couldn't read the remainder of the sentence. So those were items we definitely needed to address, and I'll say it again because I think it's very important that we went with a mobile-first attitude. So you're not going to see the same view that you would if you went on a computer because the real estate is tremendously different, but all of the pertinent information and links do automatically resize and adjust for a mobile screen size and varying mobile screen sizes.
So I'm a parent, I've got a child at Slater and I have a child at Lincoln. Is there somewhere I can go to get the, to tell the district or my site that I want the Peach Jar flyers automatically coming to me? How do I do that?
So we have already shared email addresses that we have with parents with Peach Jar to send them, I believe it's a weekly update or an update. They can adjust the update themselves. They can choose to go into the peachjar.com and adjust how often they view them. But you would see the flyers from those 2 schools or from the district if they're sent to all schools automatically. Or you can go to peachjar.com and sign up for flyers, which is great because we have many 2 household families where one household is getting the flyers in the backpack and one isn't. So now that other household parent, guardian can go into peachjar.com and just sign up for flyers for that school or for the whole district. Grandparents can do the same thing, babysitters, caregivers, it's great.
Okay. That's good. Margie? Now it's red.
Thank you. I just had a question about equity for our families and wonder about the transition to being only electronic with our flyers and wonder if you can address that.
So this is actually an issue that our neighbor in Napa dealt with as well. And what they did originally was print flyers, some of the flyer PDFs to have available in the office, and found that families didn't want that, and actually most of the families do have mobile devices and can find them. So even in the past 2 years, the amount of families that can find things on their mobile devices versus the families that had an iPad or a laptop has changed significantly. So we can print PDF flyers if needed, and I think our family engagement facilitators will be helpful in having those discussions and seeing what's needed in our schools.
Okay, thank you. We're done? Thanks very much. Pretty impressive and exciting.
Thank you.
Let's move to item F6, discussion. It's a technology update on our new phone system.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Kitamura. This evening, Superintendent Kitamura mentioned in her statement about the amount of cable that has been pulled, both in mileage and quantity, and the man hours that it took to do that. All of that work was in preparation for one new network infrastructure that includes wireless to provide access throughout our schools to assist in the classroom as well as conducting business around our school district. As you may recall of numerous board presentations previously, there was really no wireless in our district and we had an aging infrastructure. So that wiring was to address that and bring connectivity to all of our school sites and district office, along with the lack of network or technology infrastructure. We were also running on 3 different phone systems of varying age, with no less than our youngest being probably about 20 to 22 years old, far beyond end of life, and going through, I'll say, if not constant, consistent failures on a periodic basis that required magic people to send parts from places unknown to fix a system that hadn't been produced in years. And that often caused delays with getting phone systems back up at a block of schools, depending on what phone system failed. So part of the infrastructure project, and as Superintendent Kitamura mentioned earlier, thanks to the Community for Measure I and L, we are able to provide a singular phone system throughout our district, including the district office. To my right, I have Adrian Bika, our Director of Technology, who has been running the project from the start till today, and I wanted him to be able to give us an update on where we're at with the implementation of the new phone system in anticipation for the start of school on August 15th. So with that.
Thank you, Rick. Hello, everybody. Adrian Bika, Director of Technology. So at this moment, we completed the phone installation at all the school sites, with the exception of the district office and Lewis Adult School, or whatever we name it, Education Center. Along with this installation, we went ahead and installed the clock speaker systems, which actually are activated through the phone system at each school. We are working currently on cabling the district office, and we are almost complete with the cabling part. The phone system is scheduled for implementation over the Labor Day. I just had a meeting this morning with our teams and contractors, and it looks like we're going to be on task for the Labor Day. Of course, after this, I have to mention this, there will be a lot of cleanup that we'll have to do. So there will still be a lot of work to be done once we are done with this project. We need to, the biggest hurdle is going to be removing equipment from the main network cabinets, because we'll have to coordinate effort with different contractors, AT&T, who are providing the wide area network. So that's it.
I think it's important to note too, along with the implementation of the new phone system, our biggest schools went in this summer. So we are preparing to assist those school sites on the first days of school as teachers return with a new phone system with new numbers. It's also important to note that this system, as Mr. Bika mentioned, ties directly into the bell clock speakers and gives additional ways that we can notify within a school or within the district through one singular system. So coupling that with some of the other changes that we're making, including the website in terms of notification and the ability to mass notify through that, as well as the mobile application, we're putting in systems that, to the benefit of our students and staff, hopefully never having to use them for that, but we'll have that ability to easily notify. For instance, with the new phone system in combination with the clock system, an administrator can go into any classroom and make a PA announcement for the entire school site. They don't have to go back to a single spot on campus to make that announcement or to initiate the bells, alarms, or flashing lights of the clock speaker to signify that something's going on campus. So we're trying to add extra layers of security and notification through these systems that we're implementing through, I'll say, the large technology infrastructure project.
Board member questions or comments? So if somebody knows by heart their school number because their student's been going there for 2, 4, 6 years, and they dial it tomorrow, what happens?
It is forwarded to the new phone number.
Is it forwarded and they don't even know it?
They wouldn't sense it.
Is there a point at which that doesn't happen, so they need to learn a new number?
All numbers are posted on our website right now, and we plan to continue keeping these lines on at least till spring. But we have to understand that we're also, because some of these lines are coming through a bigger circuit, we're actually still paying for the big circuits when we're actually using only one line. So we want to actually, phase them out so that we don't have to pay the big bill.
So the phase out will be designed in a way that people will understand it. And
we'll have to make multiple announcements. We're just moving to this new phone number, and we'll have to give a deadline at some point, and then we just turn them on.
Director Fong.
We still have it.
So thank you to our community and our voters for these bond measures, and I just want to say thank you, kudos to the staff for putting this together. Also, the website, big stuff. This is great stuff. It's like, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, we are adjourned. Our next meeting is August 22nd.